Welcome everybody to Deep Stories. I want to tell you a really cool story today from Rebbe Nachman of Breslev when he was before a Rebbe and he met Napoleon. So it's called An Encounter with Napoleon. Napoleon Bonaparte, we know, didn't come from a royal family. He did have exceptional military ability, and he went up the ranks from being a regular soldier to eventually becoming a general. Then he became the emperor and dictator of France. Many called him the Little Corporal. His enemies called him this. He captured almost all of the countries of the European continent, and he had dreams of becoming a worldwide ruler. He modeled himself after Alexander the Great. 2,200 years earlier, Alexander believed that the Middle East was the gateway to India and other lands in the Far East, and that way led through Israel, that they called Palestine then. So Napoleon personally took command over a great, huge army to realize his dream. He conquered Egypt, and from there he marched into the land of Israel. About the same time, it was the year of 1798, the great-grandson of the Baal Shem Tov, Rebbe Nachman, arrived in the land of Israel. His aim, what was his goal? He wanted to absorb the holiness of the land of Israel and really quench his thirst for Torah and the Chassidut from the great sages who lived at the time in the holy city of Tzvat. So this young man, Rebbe Nachman at the time, would seclude himself in the old cemetery in Tzvat. He prayed and meditated by the graves of the great Kabbalists. You had Yitzchak Luria the Arizal, Moshe Al-Shich, you had Moshe Cordovero the Ramak, Shlomo Alkabetz, who wrote the song that we all sing on Shabbat, Lecha Dodi. And one time he had finished his prayers with his great concentration. He lay down on the grass to rest and he fell asleep. In a dream, he saw the figure of an old man clothed in white garments, who spoke to him and said, "You have to leave your seclusion in Sfat and go down to Tiberias. You have an important mission to carry on the banks of the Lake Kinneret." So Rebbe Nachman woke up and decided to not waste a moment. He went to his room, took his talit and tefillin and his few other things, packed it, and went down the hill towards Tiberias. He arrived in the town. He rented an attic room in the house of a fisherman. He started learning Torah and praying. That was his life. He didn't know what his mission would be, but he knew that heaven would give him the message at the right moment. In the meantime, many monumental events were taking place which caused Napoleon a great deal of uneasiness. Lord Nelson, he was the head of the British Armada, secured a great victory over the French fleet in the battle in the Mediterranean Sea near the Nile River. The French fleet suffered heavy losses, and it became very difficult to bring the large amount of supplies which the French army required, the food, the weapons, and other equipment. And the mood and the morale of the French soldiers on various fronts went very low. There were many cases of soldiers attacking civilians. Small bands of French soldiers were behaving like common thugs. Napoleon, who made his headquarters on Lake Kinneret, received reports, some true and some just rumors, that there was much unrest in France and that his enemies were looking for a way to dethrone him. So it was a very unsettling atmosphere, and he wasn't able to really maintain the discipline he needed for the success of his army. And one day, the thieving bands of soldiers went to rampage the homes of the poor fishermen who lived on the lake of the Kinneret. And they got into the houses, emptying drawers, looking for money and valuables. 3 soldiers came into the home where Rebbe Nachman lived, and they demanded from the old Jewish fisherman that he show them where his money was. He said, "I have no money. I don't even go fishing anymore. My only son is supporting me." So they were disappointed and upset. They started beating him, and they were about to kill him, if not Rebbe Nachman coming, and he heard the commotions, and he comes down and he said, "Leave the man alone." He calls in a commanding voice. The soldiers were shocked at this unexpected order, let go of their victim, but they see that the intruder is this skinny, pale, young Jew. They look at him and start laughing, and they said, "Oh, so you want a taste of this beating? We'll give you a lesson." So he takes off his belt, one of the soldiers, comes to Rebbe Nachman, threatening him, and Rebbe Nachman didn't move. He stands still. He just shoots a piercing glance at this soldier, and he remains standing, frozen. His arm is in the air. It's like he's paralyzed. The two other soldiers, they see their friend squirming with pain, try to go help him, but they too become helpless just with one look of Rebbe Nachman. They can't move. He orders them to put the old man on his bed and beg for forgiveness for attacking him. Then he tells the soldiers, empty your pockets and put all the money and loot that you have on the table. And they did this trembling with fear. And he says, now get out of here at once and never go into a Jewish house again if you value your life. They run out in a panic and they reach the barracks. They tell their friends about what happened. They say that they meet this young Jew. He's a holy man who has magical powers, who paralyzed them with just one look. So the story starts to spread throughout the French army, and it reaches the ears of Napoleon. He has the soldiers brought to him from the guardhouse where they were spending time as punishment for their bad behavior. He questioned them in detail, and he saw they were telling the truth. He decided he wants to meet this special young Jew. Maybe he might be able to tell his future what it has in store. So he pardons the leader of the group that he should serve as guide to find where Rebbe Nachman was staying. So the sun is setting behind the mountains. It casts a shadow over the place near the shore of the lake where Rebbe Nachman was meditating. Napoleon gets out of his boat followed by his soldiers. And the soldier says, that is the man. And Napoleon approaches Rebbe Nachman. Rebbe Nachman gets up and greets him with great respect, saying, good evening, your majesty, welcome, blessed are you in your coming. So Napoleon says, he's amazed. He says, how do you know who I am? And Rebbe Nachman answered, the Torah enlightens the eyes of those who follow in the ways of its teaching. So Rebbe Nachman leads Napoleon into the house and the soldiers stay outside. Napoleon apologizes for the bad behavior of his soldiers, and he tells Rebbe Nachman the guilty ones have been punished, and I've taken strong measures that such bad behavior will not occur again. And the talk continues. Napoleon saw that he's conversing with a very distinguished person, a distinguished spiritual personality, who also had a deep understanding of worldly problems and events. So Napoleon asked Rebbe Nachman his opinion of whether he should continue his military expedition to the countries of the Middle East to go to India, or should he just go home? Rebbe Nachman pondered the matter for a bit of time, and he says, Hashem, God, has blessed you with amazing abilities and qualities, which you should use for the benefit of mankind. The way to achieve this is not through wars and bloodshed. It says, do not allow your military victories to mislead you. They will not bring peace to the world, and without peace you have nothing. He advised Napoleon and says to him, go home, create in your country an order of justice and righteousness. Napoleon shakes his head and waves his hand and says, no, not for me. I would rather live a short life full of triumph and power than a long life without them. Everyone has freedom of choice in the way he wishes to live, Rebbe Nachman answers respectfully. Before they take leave of each other, Napoleon invited Rebbe Nachman to accompany him as an advisor, even though he had not been ready to follow his advice at this time. Rebbe Nachman thanked him for this honor and says, I appreciate the confidence you have in me, but I can't accept your offer. My only wish in life is to serve God, the King of Kings, with all my heart and all my soul. I don't look for any other fortune, for I'm convinced that there is no greater achievement than to serve the Almighty. Rebbe Nachman's wish was fulfilled in the fullest measure when he returned from the land of Israel and settled in Breslov. Here he was received as a Rebbe, and he attracted many followers who became Breslover Hasidim. And Rebbe Nachman passed away at the early age of 41 in the year of 1811. And we all know what happened to Napoleon. He had a very tragic, miserable end, imprisoned on an island. God bless you all. Have a great day.